Hello, and welcome to this on-demand webinar for IT leaders to discuss your strategies and your budgets in 2024. This session is produced by Aberdeen Strategy and Research and sponsored by HCLSoftware. Today's speakers are Derek Brink, VP and Research Fellow at Aberdeen, Jim Rapoza, VP and Principal Analyst at Aberdeen, and Steve Padgett, CIO at HCLSoftware. I'll hand it over to Derek to get started.
Okay, thank you, Ophelia. This is Derek Brink. I'll be the first to introduce myself, but we have two other awesome panelists here, Jim Rapoza and Steve Padgett. As I said, I'll start. I'm with Aberdeen Strategy and Research, so I've been here a little longer than Jim Rapoza, my colleague, not that much longer. We've both been exactly the same amount of time as part of Spiceworks, Ziff Davis, though, a little over 3 years now. We have complementary areas of focus, both involved in IT. I'm more in cybersecurity sort of topics. Jim is more on infrastructure. But in any case, we're both here to support this talk today. So Jim, I'll just leave it at that for myself and hand it over to you now, and then you'll give Steve his chance.
Thanks, Derek. Yeah, I'm Jim Rapoza. I've been with Aberdeen since 2012, which sounds like a long time. Yeah, and as Derek said, I'm our main analyst covering IT infrastructure, cloud, and how businesses are using those technologies to not just modernize and improve their core IT capabilities, but to improve other areas such as customer and employee experience. And with that, I'll hand it over to Steve.
Hi, my name is Steve Padgett. I'm CIO for HCLSoftware. I've been CIOs for various different companies through my career. I've been in IT for over 30 years now, like I said, various roles from strategy, planning, applications, databases. I've pretty much done it all. So I have a wide background in IT topics and looking forward to our discussion today.
Yeah, thank you. So are we. So is everyone, I hope, listening. And the title, is you all saw, is about kind of aiming at IT leaders like yourself, Steve, really, and talking about strategies and budgets, because those are intertwined for 2024. And as kind of a jumping off point, I wanted to share some research that we have just to get the conversation started. For over a decade now, Spiceworks Ziff Davis has been doing something called the State of IT, and Jim, you were involved in a presentation about that with Peter Tsai. He's been involved for 10 years, and so you recently did something about that. But today I'm just calling out a specific part of that about the spending. So we asked some questions about where our budget's being allocated, because most organizations, Steve, you've been a CIO in many places. I'm going to guess, I feel pretty confident about this, that you didn't have ever unlimited budget. You always had some kind of finite aspect to your budgets.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
You can never get everything you want, that's for sure. There's always prioritization and trade-off.
Exactly right. So that's the nature of what I want to show. So we asked questions about spend. We asked exactly what you were saying. If you have so many places to put your money, where are you putting it? And it all had to add to 100%. And we use a standard taxonomy. There were 8 high-level areas, and if you double-clicked on each of those 8 areas, you ended up with a total of, I think it was 84 total spaces on the board, so to speak, to put your money. And so I just want to show the high level here. I'll just pull up this one slide here. Hang on. You should be able to see this slide now. So yeah, 84 specific areas, 8 high-level categories, and the people who answered all these questions were 530 global organizations. So these are the 8 areas there: hardware, software, hosted / cloud-based, the managed services, facilities and power, telecom, IT labor, and internal services. And so again, it all added up to 100 when these 530 plus organizations responded. I think of it this way: if you had $100, then at this level you're going to be, using the 50s and 20s and 10s and 5s and 1s, to spread it out. If you double click to get it to 84 areas, you're going to have to bring out some, quarters and dimes and nickels and pennies as well. But at this high level, you can see, for example, hardware and software. Let me make sure everyone understands the chart here. What we're showing in the green bars, basically the 5th percentile at the low end to the 95th percentile at the high end. And then the golden orangey color there is the median. That's the 50-50 mark. So for hardware, 5 percentile is 1.5% of your total budget. on hardware, and at the 95th percentile under hardware, it was 46.5% of your total budget. The median's about 17.5%, and so on. You can read, the low and the high and the median across all the other buckets. If any one organization, if you're listening, you say, well, where do I fall? You can sort of eyeball it. And it's unlikely that you're going to be exactly on the medians, and that'd be unusual. I think I would take that bet. Probably no one's going to do that, but you can kind of get an idea of where are we spending and how's that compare to where others are spending. And I just think it's kind of useful to see it this way in terms of the full ranges. Just a quick word on percentile. I know I'm speaking a lot here, but we all know what percentiles mean, I think, in real life. If you have a standardized test and you scored the 95th percentile on, say, math, that means that you did better than 95% of all other test takers. If you have a baby and your baby's in the 20th percentile for weight, it means that 80% of the babies are heavier than yours at birth, and 20% are less. So we kind of get what percentile means, and that's what this is showing. It's kind of just a useful way to look, and a little more interesting and useful to look at the full range instead of just an average. So, Steve, let me just ask you, in terms of, how this looks, is this make sense to you? Everybody has to make choices and trade-offs, like you said, but you make your own choices and trade-offs. Do you have a quick reaction to this about how your current budget falls?
This pretty much falls. Yeah, I mean, this falls in line with what we've done. We're moving much more heavily, as probably everybody else is, into cloud and the whole cloud ecosystem. So we're seeing, reductions in facilities, reductions in some of the hardware buys to more managed services and cloud. But that's a transformation and takes a while. Not everything's moving all at once. It's going to be a while before we get to that point where we really desire to be, where most of our infrastructure is not on premise and is all managed in the cloud.
Yeah, and that's your strategy. So that's how yours would reflect over time, and others may, choose not to go that way. And we actually will talk about that topic next. But Jim, just to give you a chance, anything you want to say at this highest level here about making choices and trade-offs?
Yeah, and as we'll get into further on, but to me, a lot of this ties to whether you want to call it digital transformation or modernization. Consistently in our research, we see that businesses across the board are investing in modernizing all aspects of their IT environment, and I think this reflects that pretty heavily. Now, what we're going to get into is some of the whys that businesses are modernizing their infrastructure, because it doesn't usually just boil down to we want new stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have that pleasure always either. Just we want the newest, shiniest thing. Well, we had two examples. We thought we'd call out two examples of how strategies are reflected in the budgets. And the first one is about this in-house versus cloud-based. So let me just move to that. I made this slide, so I'll take full credit or blame, depending on how you feel about it. But let me explain what it is. We took two groupings of the previous slide, basically. So hardware, software, facilities, and IT labor, I took all those as a group, and I just called that in-house. That's the blue section on the bottom of this chart. And then I took the two categories that was hosted / cloud-based services and also managed services. I grouped those together. I call that outsourced. And so that's the orange part of the chart. And so as you look from left to right on the chart, those are the 537 respondents. And some of them spent, most of them spent some in blue and some in orange. So this is the total of their spend across from left to right for each individual respondent. You can see on the left-hand side, there's a few that spent all of it on the blue side. So they were 100% still in the in-house bucket. And over to the right side, there were a few that spent 100% in the outsourced bucket. But for the most part, actually more than 95% of the organizations in this data set are currently investing in a blended approach, is what it said. So the median spend on the outsourced cloud, the orange part, is about 20%. You can see the full range just with your eyes. The median on the blue part, the in-house part, was about 60%. Again, you can see the full range with your eyes. And we already talked about the 95% are not all in on either side. And then the ratio, just one other quick point. These are all the points on the left here, and then I'd like to get Jim and Steve to respond. and react to this. The ratio of outsourced versus in-house, the median is approaching about 40%. So in other words, for every $4 you're spending on the cloud-based stuff, you're spending about $10 on the in-house stuff across this data set. So, Jim, what do you think about that? Just in terms of infrastructure and what you see, and why are people moving? And I would think it's everybody's in the cloud already if you listen to all the marketing, perhaps. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, there's a few interesting things at play here. I mean, yeah, just a few years ago, the assumption was everybody would be 100% in the cloud. But what we've been seeing is a much more rising interest in hybrid cloud. Businesses are realizing there's sort of a right sizing to their infrastructure, where we're often, I think over 50% of businesses in our recent IT infrastructure modernization survey were investing in hybrid cloud. And we've actually seen workloads move from the cloud to on-prem, often as a driver for hybrid businesses. Their cloud infrastructure is obviously ready for hybrid. Often their on-prem isn't, so they've needed to modernize their on-prem capabilities to better utilize hybrid cloud. Now, the interesting thing too is we're also seeing businesses move even more aggressively to on-prem. There's the famous Mark Twain quote, often misquoted, but around reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated, and the reports of the death of the data center, I think, have been greatly exaggerated, and we're definitely seeing businesses realize that to have a strong infrastructure today, you need all aspects. You need the resiliency and flexibility and scalability of the cloud, and you need the control and security and reliability often of an on-prem systems.
Steve, you kind of hinted that you were trying to directionally going more towards the cloud, but it's going to take a while. But what's your reaction to that?
Well, I think it depends a lot on industries and requirements. I mean, I think that certain industries are definitely, the whole tech world and those types of businesses are very, probably very cloud centric at this point in the game. Also, startups and newer businesses have an easier time because they don't have those legacy applications to go convert. So I think it's a journey for everyone. I think you're absolutely correct that some companies are going to have a better time in that journey just because just security requirements. They don't have the the uniquenesses that they need to keep their data. They need to keep control over their data. And they're willing to go do that. And I think cost has been an issue for a lot of companies too, because in a well-managed on-premise environment, it can be significantly less expensive to run the workloads than it is in the cloud. The cloud gives you a lot more flexibility, but if you don't need that flexibility, if you're running fairly static workloads, well, running a very a productive on-premise environment can be highly cost effective. And so I think that's still where that is for a lot of companies.
Yeah, very interesting. And I have one more example of strategies meeting budgets, and it's in I guess my space, we could say. Let me pull up the one chart on that. Again, if you like it, it's me. If you don't like it, it's still me. This is just showing you the percentile curve for all if you double click on all the parts of that grid and you look at the cybersecurity squares, if you take all those as the numerator and you divide by the bucket they're in. So in other words, of all the spending on IT, on computing infrastructure that you do, how much of that is on cybersecurity? And so the curve here on the low end, I wish you could see my cursor. I don't think you can. The low end is about 1%. That's the fifth percentile. 1% of your total spending on computing infrastructure spent on cybersecurity. And at the high end, to the upper right there, about 25% of your total spending on computing infrastructure is on cybersecurity. The median is about 11.1%. So there's no one right answer here. This is a business decision. It's based on your organization's appetite for risk, how much risk you're willing to accept. You've got always trade-offs between your business goals. Security people might want to spend 100% of everything on on security, and then you wouldn't get any business done. And some people might want to spend zero on cybersecurity, and you might not get any business done either, ultimately, because of some horrible breach or something. So there's some balance here, and this is what the data showed. I find it interesting. So, Steve, what do you think about this?
Oh, I totally agree. I think it's, a lot of it has to do with the risk tolerance of the enterprise. I mean, some companies are willing to take more risk and that they would then lower their spend. And some companies will not want to do that. They'll that they're very risk averse, and they're going to want to spend more to make sure that they're doing everything they can to avoid that level of risk. So, and it, like I said before, the industries a lot of times will affect that too, because financial services companies have a whole different profile than retail than other types of companies. So you got to balance your spend. I agree with you 100% there. That you have to balance your spend between what you're willing to spend and what you're willing to tolerate from a risk and a compliance perspective.
Yeah, I had one quick thought about this. The analogy that came to my mind is if you've ever applied for a mortgage, you know that the underwriters have some kind of rule. I think it's 28%. They don't want the housing cost that they're about to give you, a mortgage is more than 28% of your monthly income. So in some sense, there's an affordability aspect to this. You might want to do more, but you can only afford so much because you've only got so much on your total top line budget. So another way to think about it. Let's pause. Pause for that cough. And one other quick comment, Steve, is that of course you at HCLSoftware, you have offerings in the security space, so it's important to your company and your business to help people say, well, yeah, well, you should allocate some of your resources for protecting your software and the endpoints and for your applications, for the security of your applications. So we'll talk about that as we go along too. Let me put that slide away and let's really just ask you, Steve. I think people really want to hear mostly from you. That was just a way to get warmed up and have some quick conversation starters. But where are you investing as a CIO from an IT perspective right now?
I mean, we obviously do a lot of the same things that were in your categorization, because there's fundamentals you have to go invest in to make sure you have the right operating infrastructure, that you have the right resiliency, that you have the right all the things you have to do to be able to keep your business running and operating and all that. But then if you layer on that the incremental investments, our real focus has been around improving the quality of our customer experience and our employee experience. Tied into digital transformation efforts. We're really trying to increase the amount of self-service for both customers and for employees, the ability to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, from where you want to do it. So location agnostic, being able to do it whenever you need to. So if someone needs to do something in the middle of the night, they can do it. Customers can interact with us digitally and do all the things that they would do normally via process of talking to sales reps and other people. They can do all that themselves through a self-service process. So we're spending significant amounts of time and energy on those two things, really trying to streamline those operations, make them cost effective, that type of thing. On the other side, we do spend a large amount on cybersecurity because it's very important to us. We do a lot of work with the federal government, and obviously that requires a certain set of standards that we have to meet and things we have to go do to be able to do that. We are global, so we have to comply with GDPR and all the different privacy and security requirements. We do a ISO 27K for our services. We do a SOC 2. We do all the different compliance things, just like most of the SaaS-based providers do for their customers. So we have a broad range of needs in the cybersecurity place, and we are probably, I would guess, on your curve of investment where we are higher than the norm on the cybersecurity side, just because of the requirements we have in place.
And I think you were going to talk to us a little bit about the transformation topic, right? You did a little bit already, but
We did. I mean, transformation is such a big deal, and it's. I think everybody's doing it. It's somewhat of a there's a bit of buzz around it. What is digital transformation? What does it really mean? I mean, but for us, the digital transformation pieces are mostly about how we interact with our customers and to a lesser extent our employees, but what the things we do and how we do those things with our customers and really make it easy to do business with us is the real focus for our digital transformation. So we focus in on getting customer feedback. We focus in on understanding what the customer's needs are, be able to solve their problems quickly and be, agile in the way we address those.
Jim, you have some research, I think, that's going to be quite pertinent to this discussion. Why don't you take it away?
Yeah, no, that's a great setup, Steve. Yeah, so you talked about digital transformation. You talked about customer experience. It's interesting because we've definitely see that in our research. When we look at transformation or modernization, nearly half of all businesses are engaged right now in some form of IT modernization and digital transformation. And I think the mistake some businesses make is to overly focus on the technology side. So they're about like, oh, we're about migrating to the cloud. We're about implementing these new technologies, without thinking about some of the end goals, like you mentioned, like focusing on customer experience, focusing on employee experience. But what we see is that these are huge drivers, and for successful businesses, they see the payoff when they implement a digital transformation with the goals of improving things like customer experience. For example, we recently found that the number one action that businesses take when they are implementing a modernization, when they're trying to overcome the challenges of a legacy system, is to implement technology that gives them real-time insights into customers and that helps them deliver real-time experiences. To kind of go over this a little bit more, I'm going to bring up a slide here. The other thing, so here at Aberdeen, we talk about pressures. You can think of this as drivers to improve. What are the things pushing your business to transform, to modernize, to improve your capabilities? And looking at customer experience, we see some pretty interesting drivers here that I think drive some of the technology implementations that you would do as part of a transformation. So the customers expect quality experiences across multiple touch points. That was the number one driver. Number two driver was increased competition, requires differentiating based on customer experiences. And the number three, and again, this was like, it wasn't, this is the bottom three. This was, I think there were about 15 options in our survey that businesses could take as far as the top pressures. But demographic changes of customers. And these definitely, especially 1 and 3, tie together very well. When you think of Gen Z or millennial customers, they do expect that kind of quality experience across multiple touch points. So businesses really, they need to improve their especially their data and cloud capabilities to enable these kind of next generation experiences. Interestingly, when we look at some of our data, obviously, and kind of, Derek, I'm not sure, but I think we've gotten this far into this presentation without saying the words AI, which is good thing I'm saying it, because we might get fined by the tech pundit overlords for not mentioning AI. But AI obviously is a huge driver, especially in improving customer experience. When you talk about these sort of self-service capabilities that you're talking about real-time experiences, about personalization, AI is extremely valuable in those. And we see this in our data. We saw that 35% of businesses are currently investing in AI specifically to improve customer experience. And we also, when we looked at our best in class, which if you're not familiar with Aberdeen, that's the top 20% in success metrics. So we looked at the businesses that were in the top 20% customer service. They were 2 times more likely to be using AI, especially in areas like automation and in improving analytics and data quality. So, clearly, AI is a key aspect of modern digital transformation. And it also helps businesses overcome some of the biggest challenges. So, for example, data. AI is both, it helps with managing data. An AI and machine learning tools can, in seconds go through data that would take a team of humans, hours or days to go through. But, obviously there's a massive amount of data. In our research, we see at least a 25% increase on a yearly basis in the amount of data that businesses are dealing with. And, managing, implementing a digital transformation is both an enabler and a problem. As businesses implement new technologies, they often see their data demand rise, but they are also implementing new tools like AI, like better analytics. They'll give them the ability to better leverage this data, especially in areas like customer experience. So looking again at the best in class, looking at these businesses, they're implementing capabilities that are going to improve their data and improve customer experience across the board. So, they're increasing their data capacity both in the cloud and on-prem. They're modernizing their legacy databases and data sources. We often see legacy data sources as a huge problem. They often are siloed. It makes it really hard to get that kind of end-to-end view into your customers that's needed to deliver real-time and improved experiences. They're 2 times more likely to be implementing dashboards that give them a better view into customer experience, more than 2 times more likely to be implementing customer personalization, more likely to be improving analytics, and again, more than 2 times more likely to be using AI. So, these are all best-in-class capabilities, and if your business wants to carry out a transformation, wants to enable modernization, wants to improve customer experience in the same way as a best-in-class, you really need to be implementing this kind of digital transformation. One last slide here is just to look at some of the benefits that we see the best-in-class get. So being a best-in-class isn't just about using cool new technologies. It's about improving capabilities, improving outcomes across your organization. So they're better data standardization. They're able to distinguish most profitable customers. They're able to integrate digital and brick and mortar experiences for customers. They have better analytics. They have that single view of customer data. And again, they're using AI to help handle customer interactions, to enable these kind of personalizations, these kind of things that Steve was just talking about. And with that, I'm going to move back to Steve. I'm just kind of curious how some of these findings compare to what you're seeing when it comes to digital transformation, and especially from a focus of improving customer experience.
Oh, I think there's a significant amount of alignment with the exact same things you said there. We find that, especially as we start to look at AI and some of the other, technologies available, things like data quality are just, super important. To have best in class data quality defines that, so that the data you're using, your customer experience is only as good as the quality of the data you have associated with it. And we're using AI and a lot of the tooling to help us build higher quality data that means more to the customer, has higher level. We're taking other sources of data, aggregating it. So we're doing a significant amount of work around data quality and best in class data. And that has been super important to us.
Obviously another aspect of data besides data quality is protecting data is a huge element of cybersecurity. So Derek, I want to hit it back to you. I know you had some interesting comments around cybersecurity as part of digital transformation.
Yeah, well, I think we'll give Steve a chance, and you at HCLSoftware have solutions, commercial solutions. So not to cross over into sales mode here. That's not what I'm asking. But you use your own products. You drink your own champagne, as the expression goes. So can we talk about that just for a second, and then any other the security thing that you find to be especially helpful in your environment?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we use HCLSoftware does create a number of world class security products associated for use by IT companies, IT CIOs, just the IT community in general. We use a product called BigFix internally. It's an endpoint protection tool. It's one of the better ones out there. It solves a lot of our problems associated with endpoint security. We also use a product called AppScan. That's application security testing, and so we use that product to scan our applications as we go to deploy. Super important to make sure that you don't have any residual leaks or holes in your application environment. Finally, we're deploying zero trust as part of our overall security strategy, and one of the key components of that, we're putting in a third-party product called Cato. That is a secure access service edge product. We really see that the world's future is in allowing our employees to work wherever they want to, and so we need to be able to secure them, in whatever location they are. I mean, part of that is the whole move to work at home that came as a result of COVID, but we see everything hybrid going forward. So we pushed hard early on, and we were already moving in that direction even before COVID, to be able to allow employees to work wherever they want or need to. And so the SASE solutions have really helped us out that from both a networking perspective and also securing the edge associated with all their applications.
Yeah, thank you for that. Would anybody be surprised if I said I would just show a couple charts with a little bit of data on the things that you talked about? Let me do that. On the topic of endpoint security and endpoint management, that's what BigFix is all about. This is not my data. It's really the Verizon data breach investigation report. Data over a number of years. I guess it's about 6 years worth here, going back to 2019. So the language of the Verizon report has been pretty consistent. They use something called an incident to refer basically to an attempt to compromise, to get unauthorized access to systems and data. So an investigated incident is the attempt, a confirmed data breach is the success. And so all I've done here is I take the ratio of those two things, the confirmed data breaches or successes, as a percentage of the incidents. And what you're looking at here is the user devices versus back-end applications and data. So the user devices is in the darker purpley color. And you can see consistently they're higher, anywhere from about, with a 6-year period, it's about 1.8 times higher on the endpoints. There's a lot of diversity on the endpoints. There's a lot of stuff there. There's the OS, there's the commercial apps, there's the user, different types of devices. There's like you said, their location, all kinds of things. And it's not surprising to me that there'd be a higher success of compromise on the endpoints, and that's where BigFix can help with the security side as well as the management of these devices side. However, when you look at the data in a, oops, I went too far. Sorry, folks. If you look at the same Verizon data in a different way, where are the confirmed data breaches? So this chart is just really saying, of all the confirmed data breaches, what percent are coming from the user devices or the endpoint side? What percent are coming from the back end? And you can see the cluster of back-end systems on the right much higher than the endpoints. Makes sense to me that back-end applications and databases and such, that's where the data tends to be. And so that's where, people are going to aim. And so everything you said, Steve, about make sure that your applications are more secure, and so your app scan solution is kind of aimed at solving that part of the problem. So you got solutions on both ends. It's your software, whether it's the commercial software on the endpoints or OSs and commercial apps and whatnot, or it's the apps you're developing in-house, say in the back end. That's really, I think, where you focus with your commercial solutions. And then you mentioned SASE. So just one more last point about that. This is just what we saw. It was really more focused on small and mid-sized businesses, but more than half of small and mid-sized businesses had experienced some kind of either downtime or data breach in the last 12 months. That's pretty high. And about a third of them had to deal with material issues of non-compliance with regulatory requirements. And so, like you mentioned, you've got changes in workforce models, you've got the compliance and risk issues to deal with. You've got a cybersecurity skills shortage. You've got clouds and based apps and data, as you and Jim were both talking about. All of these factors here are driving the need for what people are referring to as SASE, Secure Access Service Edge. It's just security taken all the way to the edge of getting access to the network. And so, just a few drivers to add some spice to the conversation about that. Yeah. Too much spice, maybe. I don't know. But we talked about that. You also did we fully cover the digital transformation? I think maybe if you want to tell us more about what you're doing about that. I think you talked about employee experience, but other things you might be doing in that regard as we sort of get towards the end of our conversation here.
Yeah, we had a couple of other things that we've been doing. We've been optimizing a lot around, like I said, part of that self-service process is we use our commerce product, which is designed for really as an e-commerce product, but we use it in some unique ways. Like we allow the employees to do their own renewal processing. So we give them the quote, they go in and they can do all the acceptance and all the work online rather than having to, we know, working in IT, how hard some of those activities can be when you go to buy something, how much the interaction you got to wait on, them to send you things and you got to send them things and all that. We made that much more interactive in our process for our customers. The final piece we've done is we've done a significant significant amount of work around free trial processes across all of our product portfolios. All of our products are available for free trials. That doesn't sound all that complicated, but it's a big deal to really be able to set up the right technology so that the customer can come in, initiate a free trial on their own, do it as they want to do it, give them all the information and cookbooks and the things they need to be able to do the free trial, and then have that initially eventually turn into an actual digital order that we can process. So we've done a lot of work around that. We're continuing on that front, and that's a big initiative for us to go really make that free trial process work really well for customers. I mean, the way software used to, you'd buy software and you'd go out and you'd have to go get a demo, and then come in demo 2 or 3 times for you, and then you have to go do it, and then you might go into a POC. The world today is all free trials. I mean, you go in and you do it at your own pace. You do it when you want to, because as we all know, the work environment is very complicated for those things, and trying to find time to do these is difficult. So, we find people doing these at off hours and when they can, and so we try to make that environment work well and work when they want to do it and how they want to do it. So that's kind of the focus around all of our customer initiatives, is to allow the customer to do what they want to do, when they want to do it.
Now, this is an awesome moment for me, because I think most of the time, Jim, would you agree, we tend, our industry has tended to talk about the technologies, and then we have to ask questions to drag out the business. You just talk us about the business benefit, and so now I'm going to ask you about the technologies a little bit. Can you just talk a bit about the underlying technologies?
The underlying technologies for our what we're using for our digital transformation, we use a combination of things. I mean, we're using AI tools. We work with Google and all of the major AI vendors in terms of we're really starting to layer that into our product set. But we use technologies that most of it's is enhancements to applications. We don't try to do. It's not all engineered ourselves. It's not all just a purchase application. We're doing a blend between the capabilities and really enhancing the kind of standard capabilities of packaged applications with purpose-built things. Especially, we're real big fans of low-code solutions, no-code solutions, because that allows us to do things faster and quicker, and we can do more A/B testing and feedback loops by being able to change things quicker. It's not just this long engineering process where you go through and do a whole lot of development and then it comes out the other side. We do things more iterative and more interactive, so that we're constantly testing and retesting to see what works best for both our employees and our customers.
Yeah, I'd say one of the,
Sorry, Jim. Go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, one of the interesting things, and I know you guys do this, when you think of traditional trialware, if you've been around like all of us, it was always limited to sort of desktop apps type of thing. Like if you couldn't install it on your laptop, PC, whatever, you couldn't really trial it. But I do, and I believe you guys are doing some of this, with the rise of containers and Kubernetes and cloud native technologies. It really allows businesses to trial things that you wouldn't have been able to do before, more enterprise class, more of these sort of infrastructure tools. I'm just kind of curious on some of the things you're doing there.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, before the nature, the invention of clustering and all of that in cloud, really cloud and clusters have driven us in the direction to where we can provision free trial processes directly for our customers on the cloud using cluster and containers. And the ability to do that, and it has fundamentally changed that, because you're right. It was like you go download the software, you install it on your PC, and you run it. Now we provision it on the cloud, and we essentially provision the user base, and then we give it to you, and then you can go provision more users, you can go provision more services, you can pick what you want to go do within that cloud environment. And so, yeah, it's just the whole nature of that has fundamentally changed.
Well, it's probably time for us clockwise to invite Ophelia back here to give us some housekeeping and some wrap up. Let me just make sure we're really glad to talk with you, Steve. Thank you and HCLSoftware for being with us today. There's a slide up now where people can see where to go to get some more information. But Ophelia, we invite you to come back and tell us about what happens next. And I want to thank Jim and Steve both on all of our behalfs for a great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you to our speakers for sharing their data, insights, and recommendations with us. Special thanks to HCLSoftware for making this webinar possible. And thank you for watching.